On today's episode of What's Going On with Shipping, was MSC Michigan VII auditioning for Speed 3, the Charleston Drift? I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves are talking about getting back together again for Speed 3. And on behalf of all the merchant mariners on the world, let me just say right now, don't. Because Speed 2 may not be the worst shipping movie ever made, but it is in the top 10. I'm going to put it in top 5. It is horrible. The depiction of shipping in there is so bad. I mean, everything is wrong in that movie. So hopefully that doesn't happen. However, the MSC Michigan VII leaving the North Charleston container terminal the other day put on a good audition as the ship's throttles got stuck at full ahead and at 15 knots, almost 18 miles an hour. A 1,000-foot, 90,000 deadweight ton container ship came barreling out of the Cooper River, out of control in terms of being able to control its throttles, and sailed past the Battery, Fort Sumter, Fort Moultrie, out into the Atlantic Ocean. In the case of the motor vessel Dolly in Baltimore, we had a ship lose power. In the case of the MSC Michigan VII, we had, to quote Jeremy Clarkson, too much power. So we're going to take a look at this, break this down, talk about why the ship's throttles may have stuck and why they did not just cut the fuel and kill all the power to the ship. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos as they come out. All right, it's time for me to do my Juan Brown impersonation again. We're going to break down what exactly happened here with MSC Michigan VII. We're going to go to marine traffic and use it. It is our AIS provider that we use here on What's Going On with Shipping. Time we have here is 5 June at 15:38 UTC time. So this is 4 hours ahead of Charleston. So when we talk about 15:38, we're talking about 11:38 there. This is MSC Michigan VII up against the North Charleston terminal on the Cooper River. Just aft of her is MSC Carmen. Just forward of her is Ocean Jazz, a U.S. flag vessel. The Southern Rose, a tug, is downbound. There are two tugs that are going to assist getting MSC Michigan VII off the berth. Up forward is the James Moran. Aft is the Elizabeth Terracamo. There would be a pilot on board for the river passage as the ship heads down. You'll see the ship gets turned around at this point and is now facing southbound. Now, we're not sure if the MSC Michigan used any of its propulsion to get off the berth and turned around. Could have been completely done by the tugs. But what we do know, based on the U.S. Coast Guard report, is that shortly after the vessel gets turned around, the ship's pilot assisting the ship's master. Remember, a pilot is used to assist in the navigation of the vessel. This is a person from the Port of Charleston who has expertise in navigating this area, but the master is ultimately responsible for the vessel. But the pilot ordered dead slow ahead. Dead slow ahead on a ship is usually about 6 knots, 6 to 8 knots, depending on this vessel. But what we do know is that when this was ordered, the ship jumped ahead to a full ahead bell. So here you see the tugs off, the ship jumps up to 6 knots, then all of a sudden almost 10 knots, and now it's propelling down the river at close to 15 knots. So I want to hold it right here. We're now at 16:21. We were taking departure right around 15:38. Remember, we're doing this at UTC time, so you're going to take 4 hours off. So a very short period of time. So a couple of things really important to note right here. So the ship has propulsion systems, automatic propulsion systems that allow you to dial in the speed both on the bridge and down in the engine room. So we don't know where control was for the ship at this time. If control was on the bridge and they ordered in a dead slow ahead bell and all of a sudden it jumped to full ahead, then they may have been trying to switch control back down into the engine room. And sometimes what happens with those systems is it locks you out and you can't get it. A lot of people want to talk about cyber attacks. These systems are air gapped. It's not like the control system on the bridge console or even down in the engine room is hooked into the internet. This is a ship built back in 2000. The ship does not have Wi-Fi capabilities that links it up. Now, doesn't mean you couldn't have cyber issues on the ship, but they would have to be physically loaded onto the ship. But what more than likely happened is, and again, we don't know for sure, is that something locked the ship into full ahead. Now, you have the option to cut the fuel to the ship's engine. You can cut fuel, but when you cut fuel to a ship's engine, you're stopping the propeller from spinning, and that's going to make you lose control of the vessel, or you won't have as much control of the vessel. And if you look at this situation right here, MSC Michigan is heading downbound. It is coming up against the old U.S. Navy Charleston piers. The shipyard here, which is now an active serving shipyard for commercial vessels. So you see a batch of ships in here: USNS Joshua Humphreys, USNS Leroy Grumman, the Pathfinder, the Zeus. Those are all military Sea Lift Command vessels. 2 of them are tankers. 1 of them is an oceanographic research vessel. 1's a cable ship. And then you come down here and you have a series of lay berths down here at the old Charleston piers, including berths for 6 strategic sea lift vessels, 5 of the Cape D's and the 1 Cape E, the Cape Edmund. Pilot and the ship's master has to make a decision here. If you cut the fuel to the engine, you're going to start losing helm control. Or is it better to leave the engine stuck at full ahead? You have control, you have rudder control, and you just go for the Charleston drift ride down the Cooper River. And it appears the decision was made to do that, to keep power on so they have control. They've got more control than ever before. Imagine drive your car down a highway and you're driving along, 55 miles an hour. It just takes a little bit of rudder, a little bit of wheel control, and you can move from lane to lane. If all of a sudden your car stalls, put it in neutral, and you lose the power steering, very hard to control. And that's what we're seeing happen here. So I'm going to let this run, and you see the ship coming up to 14 knots here, and it's coming past the berths. Now, a couple of things I want to take note of right here as they come off the old Charleston Navy piers and off the region here. One of the things you see is Coast Guard vessel pop up here. This is Coast Guard cutter 29452. So a 29-foot patrol boat here that is responding, comes up and stops. This tells me that the word has come out from the vessel that there is distress. Probably, I'm not sure if a mayday went out, what type of call we had, but a call went out, and immediately what we saw is the Port of Charleston jump into action. Coast Guard cutters arrive on scene to basically run coverage in front of the vessel. This is showing you MSC Michigan VII coming downbound, passing those strategic sea lift vessels. Note this forward dolphin right here. There's a mooring dolphin. These are mooring dolphins that the vessels are tied off to. You can see the wake, just the speed of the vessel here. A mooring dolphin should not collapse because of a passing vessel, even at that speed. This shows you that those mooring dolphins are in pretty poor shape, which is probably a good warning omen here, because if a hurricane had ripped into Charleston, these ships probably would have broken loose, because it didn't seem to take much force for that mooring dolphin to collapse there. This is Department of Transportation, the Maritime Administration, who oversees these lay berths, and obviously whoever is controlling these berths right now really needs to investigate it, but does give you an indication here of how fast MSC Michigan VII is coming down. This video is coming from ABC4, courtesy of Vince Lindecki. You'll see MSC Michigan VII at 15 knots coming in underneath the bridge at this time. I'll show you an overhead here of the bridge in a second. I have to say, even at 15 knots, while these pillars for this bridge have basically islands around them, at that speed, a ship at 15 knots could run into those islands and cause shock damage to the bridge. Fortunately, the pilot, the ship's master, and the crew were able to keep that ship dead in the center and navigate it out through the area. This is not of MSC Michigan VII going under the bridge, but a good representation here. You can see how this bridge has those artificial islands built around them so that if a ship does come close, it's going to run into those islands first. Now, at 15 knots, you're assuming that ship comes to a stop. It probably would. Again, unlike the movies, you don't see ships pop up on the land, and that just does not happen if you've seen ships ground. They tend to come to a screeching stop very quickly. However, there is that potential for danger, especially a ship at that speed doing shock damage to the bridge. Fortunately, according to the reports from all the news agencies, police got up on that bridge quickly. They actually grabbed bike riders off their bikes and walkers and got them in the back of the cars and cleared the bridge in a very quick fashion. Just, again, learning lessons from what we saw happen in Baltimore with motor vessel Dolly. Hop back over to marine traffic now. The ship clearing that bridge, heading down into the lower bay area. Again, you have a lot of vessels in and around this area, harbor tours, commercial vessels, private vessels, all in the area. Not everybody squawks AIS at this time, so you'll see a variety of different vessels coming down. Here comes MSC Michigan being followed this time by Ava McAllister, a tugboat, trying to provide some aid, and we see multiple Coast Guard vessels at this time providing assistance. Again, 452 is riding on the bow. Here comes 246 at the stern coming behind them, and you'll see these vessels heading out. 460 coming out also, and both Coast Guard cutters are going to take Michigan out of the bay, past Cummings Point, past Moultrie, Fort Sumter, and out into the anchorage. So I got to say, a great effort here done by the ship's crew, the Coast Guard, the state of South Carolina Police, Department of Transportation, everybody involved in ensuring that there were no fatalities. There were reports of 2 people hurt due to the wake thrown out by Michigan VII, who were on a boat on the Cooper River, got tossed around. Let's go ahead and head over to Equasis, the Electronic Quality Shipping Information System. MSC Michigan VII, 2000 built container ship, registered in Liberia. Liberia is the most common registry for ships out there. When you look at the management details, the registered owner of the vessel is care of MSC Ship Management out of Cyprus, pretty typical. MSC is Mediterranean Shipping Company. It is the largest container liner in the world. Mediterranean Shipping Company has been buying container ships like crazy. They have bought everything from new to used, and this ship probably falls under that banner. The ship is classified under Bureau Veritas. It's been there since 2011. It's due for its next survey in 2025. It did its most recent one in 2020. When you look at inspections for the vessel, the ship undergoes what are called port state control inspections. So under the International Maritime Organization, any vessel that comes into a port can be inspected by the designated port state control agency. In the case of the United States, it is the U.S. Coast Guard. So this vessel initially had an inspection back in 2024 when it was in Brazil. That's kind of setting the base for it. But prior to that, on February 17th, the ship underwent an inspection in Boston, and you'll note a series of deficiencies. And this ship seems to have quite a few number of deficiencies here. Boston in 2014, they had 4. In Poland, 7. In Singapore, 6. In Italy, 6. In China, 2. Australia, 8. Again, 8. And then also in Sydney, 5. Australia, 7. So quite a bit of numbers. You will see deficiencies on ships, but usually they're pretty small and pretty quick. If you look at the deficiencies that were found in Boston, there were 4 of them. 2 of them dealt with fire safety, one with the fire detection and the alarm system, the other with oil accumulation in the engine room. That's never a good sign. That may be a sign of a leak, but it also may be a sign of just poor maintenance on board the vessel. And then you'll see 2 structural conditions. One is with electrical installations. It doesn't say what specifically with them, but it also has one with steering gear. It's interesting to note that the defect was wasted electrical installations and then worn steering gear. If you go back and look at some of these previous inspections, these are the inspection deficiencies when the ship was in Poland. You'll see a series of them: certificate of documentation, emergency systems, ISM, the pollution control, propulsion, safety of navigation. These are from Singapore: fire pumps, fixed firefighting extinguishment, ISM, life-saving appliances, health protection, water and weather-tight conditions on board the ship. This is 2022 down in Australia. You'll see cargo operations, fire safety, again, everything from health protection and medical care to water and weather-tight conditions. Basically, what this tends to tell me is this is not a well-maintained ship. This is the report put out annually by the U.S. Coast Guard. Again, Coast Guard is deemed the port state control agent for the United States. This is their highlights from 2023. That year, 10,959 individual vessels from 80 different countries made 81,854 port calls. But every time a vessel calls at the United States, it is not boarded and inspected by the United States. As a matter of fact, there were only 8,278 exams conducted, and that is a decrease from the previous year of 8,706. However, the number of deficiencies that led to ships being detained increased from 78 to 101. We just don't spend enough money to inspect vessels coming in and out of the United States. And when you look at terms of port calls, only about 1 in 10 port calls does a vessel get inspected. The ship itself, the MSC Michigan VII, was on a run from New York to Norfolk into Charleston. It was heading to Savannah and then scheduled to go down to Cologne in the Panama Canal. It is not scheduled to transit the Panama Canal. It is part of a route from the U.S. East Coast to South America, heads down to Panama, and then does a run along the east coast of South America, down to Brazil, Uruguay, and Argentina, and then back again. Well, I know we didn't give you anything definitive for what caused this incident to take place, and I've been talking to several chief engineers regarding it, and there's too many variables out there. Again, there are not, without knowing the specifics of the ship system, we just can't tell. But one of the things I think is most important to take away from this is, in a very brief period of time, the ship's master, the pilot, and the chief engineer came to the conclusion it was better to leave speed on than to take the speed off and take the chance of the ship losing control even a little bit and potentially drifting either into the docks along the Cooper River, along the Charleston side, maybe hitting ships that were in the shipyard there or in the lay berth, and potentially causing a bigger problem than it was to just leave speed on, go down the channel, breaking every wake rule there is in Charleston, and head out of the harbor. And that's a judgment call, and I will tell you that that is the one I would go with. And it would have been awesome to have been on the ship, let me be clear. I think riding a ship at 15 knots down the Cooper River would have been pretty awesome to do. It would have been terrifying, but it would have been pretty awesome to be on. I myself have been on a vessel where we had a stuck throttle. That was a steam vessel. I remember distinctly to this day, and it was a long time ago, calling down to the engine room as we were coming into Bahrain. I was on a big hospital ship, the USNS Comfort, and we were coming into the channel and we weren't slowing down when we ordered half ahead. Calling down to the engineer on watch and saying, why haven't we slowed down, is like the throttle's stuck. And in the background, hearing a loud steel on steel ding as they had a pry bar in the throttle trying to get the throttle to crack down. So it's a weird feeling. It's not a great feeling, but hats off to everyone involved in this operation. The ship's crew, the pilot, the Coast Guard, South Carolina officials on the bridges, everywhere. Just a great job was done. And again, it should be a little bit of a warning of how fragile our maritime infrastructure is. Here's a perfect case where they put the ship ahead and all of a sudden they jumped ahead. And listen, tug escorts wouldn't have done a thing. You're not lassoing that vessel and slowing it down with tugs. The best thing to do is let that bronc ride and give it a clear path. And hats off to the Coast Guard men and women on those 29-foot cutters, basically clearing the path for everyone involved. So we'll give you more information as we get it. The ship is back in the port of Charleston. They sailed it back in at a much slower speed, brought it up against the berth, so I'm sure they're doing inspections and an investigation and repairs to ensure that this does not happen again. But this could be a big flag for some vessels checking their engine systems and ensuring that they're good ahead. Now, normally when you're at the berth, you'll do tests while you're pier side. You'll put the engine ahead and astern just to make sure, but you don't go full ahead, you don't go full back. You just make sure that you have propulsion when you're up against a dock. They will want to inspect the ship's records, talk to the engineers on board and the deck crew, make sure that was done, and then try to isolate where the problem was in the ship's systems. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos as they come out. Leave a comment, share it across social media, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? Hit that super thanks button down below, or head on over to Patreon and become a monthly and yearly subscriber. Until the next episode, this is Sal signing off.